Michael Jackson's glove. The accident he turned into an icon. Everyone knows the single white glove. It's one of the most recognizable symbols in music history. But here's what most people don't know. That glove wasn't a fashion statement. It wasn't planned by some genius stylist. It started as a cover-up for something Michael desperately wanted to hide. And the moment he first wore it on stage, he had no idea he was creating an icon that would define pop culture for decades. By the end of this story, you'll understand why that glove represents something far more powerful than style. Let's dive in. Let me paint the picture for you. It's 1983. Michael Jackson is already a superstar, but Thriller is about to make him something else entirely. The album drops in late 1982, and by early 1983, it's dominating every chart on the planet. MTV is playing Billie Jean on repeat. Radio stations can't get enough. Michael is everywhere. But behind all that success, something is happening to his body that terrifies him, something he can't control, something that will eventually consume his entire public image. Here's where it gets interesting. In the early 80s, Michael starts noticing patches of lighter skin appearing on his hands. Small at first, easy to hide under stage lights. But they're spreading. This isn't makeup. This isn't a choice. This is vitiligo, a condition that destroys melanin-producing cells and creates irregular patches of depigmentation. And for a black artist whose identity is deeply tied to his appearance, this is devastating. Now here's the kicker. Michael doesn't talk about it. Not publicly, not yet, because in 1983, vitiligo isn't widely understood. If he comes out and says he has a skin condition, people won't believe him. They'll think he's trying to become white. They'll think he's ashamed of being black. The narrative will spiral completely out of his control. So instead, he makes a different choice. He hides it. But that's not all. The patches are most visible on his hands, specifically his left hand. Under stage lights, under camera lights, the contrast is stark. His left hand shows the depigmentation more prominently than his right. And Michael Jackson is about to perform on the biggest television event of the year, Motown 25. Yesterday, today, forever. March 25, 1983. Over 47 million people watching. This isn't just another performance. This is the performance that will introduce the moonwalk to the world. Think about what that means. Michael knows this moment will define his career. He knows every eye will be on him. Every camera will be focused on his hands as he moves. And those patches, those telltale signs of vitiligo, they'll be visible to 47 million people. He can't let that happen. Not yet. Not before he's ready to explain. This is where it gets deeply personal. According to people close to the production, Michael is stressed in the days leading up to Motown 25. Not about the choreography, not about the song. He's worked those elements to perfection. He's stressed about his hands, about what people will see, about what questions will follow. He needs a solution, and he needs it fast. Enter the glove. But here's what nobody tells you about that moment. The glove wasn't some elaborate designer piece. It wasn't custom made by a high-end fashion house. Michael's costume designer for the Motown 25 performance was a man named Bill Whitten, but the glove idea came from Michael himself. He wanted something that would draw attention to his hand movements, his precision, his artistry, while simultaneously covering the one thing he couldn't bear for the world to see yet. Now here's where Michael's perfectionism reveals itself. That first glove wasn't just grabbed off a rack. Michael spent hours with Bill Whitten discussing the exact specifications. The fabric had to be thin enough to allow full finger mobility. Every spin, every point, every gesture required absolute precision. A thick glove would muffle his movements. The rhinestones had to be hand-sewn in a specific pattern, not random, not decorative, strategic. They needed to catch stage lights from every angle, creating that signature sparkle that would become unmistakable in photographs and video footage. Bill Whitten later revealed that Michael rejected the first 3 versions. The fit wasn't right, the stones weren't positioned correctly, the white wasn't bright enough under stage lights. Most performers would have accepted good enough. Michael demanded perfection, because he understood something crucial. This glove wasn't just covering a problem, it was creating a legacy, and legacy doesn't accept compromise. The glove he wore that night was simple, white, covered in rhinestones. It fit his left hand perfectly, And when he stepped onto that stage at the Pasadena Civic Auditorium, performing Billie Jean in that black sequined jacket, black pants, white socks, and that single white glove, something magical happened. Backstage crew members froze. They'd never seen anything like it. The audience didn't see a cover-up. They saw mystery, they saw style, they saw innovation. Let me break down exactly why that glove worked. First, asymmetry. In 1983, stage costumes were symmetrical. Matching gloves, matching accessories, everything balanced. Michael showed up with one glove. Immediately, it was different. It broke the rules. Second, contrast. The white glove against the black outfit created a visual focal point. Every hand movement, every gesture, every spin became more visible, more dramatic. Third, mystery. The audience didn't understand why he was wearing it, and that mystery made them obsessed. Miles Teller, years later working on the biopic, would talk about Michael's genius for turning personal struggles into iconic moments. The glove is the perfect example. What started as a necessity became a signature. What was born from insecurity became a symbol of confidence. Michael took something he was ashamed of and transformed it into something the world couldn't stop talking about. Now, here's where it gets even better. After Motown 25, the glove explodes. Suddenly, every kid in America wants a white glove. Costume shops can't keep them in stock. Department stores report selling out within hours. Phone lines at fabric stores light up with parents asking how to make them at home. Michael keeps wearing it. Every performance, every music video, every public appearance. It becomes so associated with him that you can't imagine Michael Jackson without it. But here's the truth that makes this story so much more powerful. That glove was never about fashion. It was about survival. Think about the weight of that. Michael Jackson, at the peak of his career, is dealing with a condition that's slowly changing his appearance. He's watching his skin transform in ways he can't control. And instead of retreating, instead of hiding, he creates a visual signature that draws more attention to his hands than ever before. That's not just smart, that's transformative. He turned vulnerability into power. But that's not all. The glove had another function that most people never considered. It focused attention. When Michael danced, when he moved, the glove caught the light. It became a tracking device for the audience's eyes. Every spin, every point, every hand gesture was amplified. Choreographers who worked with him later said the glove was a teaching tool. It helped audiences follow his movement, understand his precision, appreciate his artistry in a way they wouldn't have otherwise. Here's exactly how that matters. Michael wasn't just a performer. He was a visual storyteller. Every element of his appearance served a purpose. The glove wasn't random. It was calculated. It was brilliant. And it came from a place of pain that he transformed into genius. Let me break down what an ordinary artist would have done differently. An ordinary artist would have worn makeup to cover the vitiligo. Michael did that too, eventually, but makeup under stage lights is unpredictable. An ordinary artist would have worn full gloves on both hands. But that draws attention to the hands as problem areas. An ordinary artist would have changed their choreography to minimize hand visibility. Michael did the opposite. He made his hands the focal point. They could never have turned insecurity into iconography like this. They could never have created mystery from necessity. They could never have built a signature look from a medical condition. They could never have transformed shame into confidence so completely that the world never questioned it. They could never have made a simple white glove one of the most valuable pieces of entertainment memorabilia in history. And they could never have understood that sometimes the things you're trying to hide are exactly what make you unforgettable. Here's exactly how to think about it. Most artists hide their flaws. Michael spotlighted his and called it art. There's a fundamental difference. This brings us to the moment that validated everything. Years later, in 1993, Michael finally addressed his vitiligo publicly. In an interview with Oprah Winfrey, watched by 90 million people worldwide, he explained the condition. He showed the reality of what he'd been dealing with for over a decade, and suddenly, the glove made even more sense. It wasn't vanity. It wasn't weirdness. It was a man dealing with something painful in the most creative way possible. Oprah asked him directly about the skin condition. Michael explained that it was something he inherited from his father's side of the family. He explained that he used makeup to even out the blotches, not to become white, but to have some consistency in his appearance. And while he didn't explicitly say the glove started because of vitiligo, the implication was clear to anyone paying attention. The timeline matched, the logic matched, the truth was there. Think about the courage that took to finally explain something he'd hidden for a decade, to give the world context for choices they'd mocked, questioned, and criticized. Michael didn't owe anyone that explanation, but he gave it anyway. And when he did, the glove's story became even more powerful. But wait. There's another layer to this that most people miss. The glove became a symbol not just for Michael, but for transformation itself. It represented the idea that you could take something painful and make it iconic, that you could take something broken and make it beautiful, that you could take something you're ashamed of and make it the very thing people remember you for. After Michael, countless artists adopted signature accessories. Madonna had her cone bra, Elton John had his glasses, Lady Gaga had her meat dress. But none of them carried the same weight as Michael's glove because none of them were born from the same necessity. They were choices. The glove was survival turned into style. Here's what the press release didn't mention when Michael performed at Motown 25. They didn't mention that he'd been up the night before, worried about his hands. They didn't mention that the glove was a last-minute solution to a problem that had been building for months. They didn't mention that Michael had tried other options, other ways to hide the patches, before landing on this one. They just reported that he wore a glove, that he moonwalked, that he was brilliant, and that was enough. But knowing the real story changes everything. It changes how we watch that performance. It changes how we understand his artistry. It changes how we think about iconography itself. Because the glove teaches us something essential about creativity. Sometimes the most iconic moments come from the most painful places. Sometimes the thing you're trying to hide becomes the thing everyone remembers. Sometimes the accident becomes the masterpiece. Let me break down the legacy of that glove. After Michael died in 2009, his white glove from the Bad Tour sold at auction for $420,000. A simple piece of fabric and rhinestones. But it wasn't the materials that made it valuable. It was what it represented. Transformation, mystery, genius born from pain. That glove is now in a private collection, but its image is everywhere. On posters, on t-shirts, in museums, in the collective memory of anyone who grew up watching Michael Jackson perform. Katherine Jackson, Michael's mother, said something years later that really stuck. She said Michael had a gift for taking difficult situations and finding beauty in them. The glove is the perfect example. What started as a cover-up for a medical condition became one of the most recognizable symbols in entertainment history. What was born from fear became an object of fascination. What he created to hide behind became the thing that made him most visible. So remember that moment in 1983. Remember Michael Jackson stepping onto that stage at Motown 25, wearing one white glove, about to debut the moonwalk to the world. Everyone watching thought the glove was a bold fashion choice. But it was something far more powerful. It was a solution to a problem. It was art born from adversity. It was Michael Jackson doing what he did better than anyone else, taking something broken and making it iconic. The glove wasn't just an accessory, it was a declaration, a statement that said, pain doesn't have to define you, that struggle can become strength, that the things you're most insecure about can become the things you're most remembered for. Michael Jackson didn't just wear a glove, he turned an accident of biology into an icon of culture. And that's something no one else could have done. So there you have it, the real story behind Michael Jackson's glove. Not a fashion statement, not a marketing gimmick. A man dealing with vitiligo, finding a creative solution, and accidentally creating one of the most iconic images in music history. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.